Welcome to the Numisphere, a podcast diving into all things in the sphere of numismatics, talking the latest news and trends of precious metals, coins, currency, and more. Let's start the show.
Welcome on into the Numisphere, where we talk about all things numismatic, and today we're going to be discussing about the current status of the collectibles coin market in the United States and the world. And I think that it's important to stay up to date with these things, and who better to talk about it than two guys in the industry. So, with that being said, Tyler, why don't you roll us off with how the numismatic...
Just throwing that pass right there, right off the bat.
That's right.
How are numismatics? Well, if you had listened to our episode back towards the beginning of the year where we kind of recapped 23, we talked a little bit about what we were expecting to come from 24. And at this point, I would say that we were pretty accurate. We're definitely seeing a consolidation from the average collector. They're just a little bit more choosy about where they're spending the money and what they're spending it on.
Correct. Definitely seeing a separation in certain sectors within specific coins and things that are sought after.
Yeah, I mean, definitely people are shifting towards finishing off those lower end books for nickels, quarters, cents, all those different things, and trying to just fill the affordable holes they may have on average. But on the flip side, we're definitely seeing that there are still those collectors that aren't afraid to spend because they have the means to do so. They're just, let's say, far and few between in comparison to the lower end consumer right now.
Sure. Right. And I agree. Just like in the ratio of percentage, how many are buying within that elite status or that upper tier of the coin collecting realm, and then how many are filling in with the books and what's going on the regular tier of the constant numismatic flow.
Yeah, and that's not just in the shop. I mean, we're seeing that with selling on Whatnot or TikTok, even on eBay. eBay Lives, we're seeing everyone's loving the type coins, $100 or less, even if they're problem coins. But I will say a couple of areas that are surprising me that are really holding well fall more into the collectible, right? Not just the numismatic, but collectible bullion and collectible modern coins.
Okay, elaborate on this.
Art bars, still killing it. Even with the recent rise of silver, which has been fantastic, you're still seeing that $45, $55 common production art bar happening, which is crazy. In my opinion, it's now silver, nice design. It's got a small premium, right? But we're seeing like triple premiums compared to where they were 2 years ago.
Right. Yeah. And I think that kind of speaks to how timeless those bars are, right? Where it's still being desired to be sought after for its content that's on there, for its artistic qualities, even today, which is pretty impressive.
We talked about it years ago that although when they were produced, they were not rare.
Right.
It's kind of a revival market, right? So like when styles go out of style for clothing.
Right. And it comes back,
and they come back
retro
20 years later, right?
Yeah.
It's that same idea is that these art bars that are coming from the 70s and 80s kind of have a nice revival happening to them.
Right.
It's not just art bars too. I mean, obviously collectible anglehards and a lot of these other small mines, huge market. People are still going after them.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the vintage market is strong and currently booming, right? I mean, for those hyper collectible pieces.
Definitely. And I think that we're seeing, I was actually just speaking with another dealer the other day that unfortunately, there are some sellers out there that are actually flooding the market.
Okay.
So you may have, let's say, a Johnson Matthey Canada 3-ounce silver bar, right?
Okay.
And suddenly there's 1 for sale, 2 for sale, 5 for sale, and now 10 for sale on eBay.
Okay.
Right? So unfortunately, they themselves are making it so this piece no longer seems like it's that rare if there's so many available. Right?
I see.
But a handful of them are coming from the same seller.
Okay.
So we're definitely still seeing within that vintage market, there's almost a manipulation. Gotcha. Whether that's people intentionally holding back and trickling them out, and then them having to compete with people that are like, hey, I got to get out of this stuff for whatever reason. And now suddenly what was once rare or harder to find is very accessible.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that's definitely something to consider, that only a handful of people may have control of where that market dictates that price, that can be a little bit concerning. Yeah, so I would definitely want to look into what piece I have and what the market looks like for that piece.
Certainly.
Before I delve in.
And if you're looking for any JMC 3-ounce bars, reach out. I know a guy.
You're not the one flooding the market.
Definitely not.
I hope not.
I would have trickled that out. Come on.
Yeah, it's funny. So I really thought that when we were talking about this back in January, we were talking about how things would be mixed, right? We knew that we were going into a contracting economy, yet we were also going into an expanding awareness of numismatics as a collectible. Yourself, you were just talking about the different live auction platforms that are out there. You rounded off Whatnot. You talked about eBay Live. I think you had a third one in there too that you had mentioned.
I'm not sure if I did, but I mean,
but we see this on
and
TikTok, Instagram. I mean, this is happening all over the place. And I do feel like that is still a dominating factor to drive awareness to the hobby, which is creating more people being involved in the purchases. What's your take?
I mean, take it with a grain of salt, right?
Okay.
Because how many times have I brought over, watching one particular seller on Whatnot or any of these other ones, and honestly, they're spewing absolute bullshit, right? It's like a used car salesman from 1990, okay? They're manipulating information. I feel like they're selling on television, which in a way I get it, they are, but they're hurting the market because they're spreading misinformation. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, this is probably 1 out of every 100 sellers out there that are really doing this in a very negative way, but you have to be careful. Mm-hmm. They might tell you something, oh, this is so rare. This is a key date. This is, a super hard one to get.
You're talking about sellers
I've got 50 in a junk box.
Essentially, you're talking about sellers that are taking advantage of the fact that the knowledge base may be minimal for the customers that they're catering to, and then overselling maybe the rareness or the value of their products.
Exactly. They're tapping into, and this is where the success for these platforms come from, is that FOMO, right? The fear of missing out. I'm putting this nice piece in front of hundreds of people, and you're all competing for it now. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, hey, who's got the bigger apparatus in their pants or the deeper pockets?
Right.
So that way you just keep fighting over something that's just ridiculous. Listen, it's a $20 coin. I see people paying $50, $60 for it.
Right. Right. So, I mean, for them to go 3X over market value can be a little bit absurd. Now, to the defense of some of the good people out there, I'll see live auctioneers that will cap things and let people know, guys, we've exceeded the value. I want you to stop.
And they'll start juicing it too.
And they'll juice it
so
by
give
adding
you the extra value. Yes. So,
which
and again,
is good.
This is few sellers that are doing it.
Right.
I just want everyone to be cautious because it does happen.
No,
so try to educate yourself. Otherwise, you will be taken advantage of.
Very valid point. And I think that a lot of people out there listening right now would appreciate that. And if they have any experiences that might have been similar to what we just described, they could add it into the comments and let us know what your experience was.
Yeah, please do.
We'd be happy to give you our feedback, and maybe we can help you out in the situation that you found yourself into. But regardless of that, I think that the point I was trying to leverage in that is there's more growth in more eyes on the hobby.
Oh, no doubt.
Which is great to have the additional participants. Now, of course, having an educated base of participants can be a lot more easy to do business with, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, more eyes equals more money flowing through the system and through the world of coins.
And again, these apps, these platforms have created such accessibility to the average person who doesn't have a local shop, or honestly, you might be working your regular job, right? You don't have time to go stop by a shop,
right?
Whatever it is,
right?
You have this instant at your hand. There's sellers on there 24/7, which is just amazing for the hobby because it's driving people to actually enjoy it again, right? You're finding all kinds of errors. There's conversations. The communities are growing. The information spreads like wildfire.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. No, it is great. And, I think that each kind of niche within our business seems to be having its firm points, right? You talked about collectible silver, right? You talked about the art bars, but even the premium products, the pieces that are 1 of 500 minted and like luxury silver items, those premiums can almost act kind of as a safe haven with fluctuating spot prices. We were talking about this last week. I found it really interesting.
So we started the conversation off with, a customer had asked us, what's the best type of silver to stack, right? And TJ was having the conversation with the customer, and I kind of chimed in. We had slightly countering viewpoints at first, and it was, he was of the mindset, let's try to get as much weight for you because that's what the customer was looking for. It was getting as much weight as possible. So cheap, generic, Buffalo, 100 ounce, right?
And just
the
to,
basics.
To chime in, the usual experience is that we find out what the customer's basis for stacking is, whether it's purely economic, whether there's some collectible attributes to that, whether it's a long-term investment or a short-term flip,
right.
And then help build their strategy. So in finding that, that's where the discussion came up about lower premium, where
right.
Tyler stepped in.
And that is what the customer was asking. So to both of them, I offered a counterpoint of, well, when you're buying just for weight, you're susceptible to actual fluctuations in the market, right? Spot goes up or down, you're subject to that change. That's the value of your piece. But if you have something like a levitating alien silver coin, and I hate to tell you, it has nothing to do with the price of silver, right? It's because this thing is badass, and that's the value because it's super cool and super hard to get.
Correct.
So getting into the high premium, the $300 to $500 price point for only a few ounces of silver on a piece that would qualify as art and low mintage, truly collectible, has an additional place within everybody's stack, right? And that's because when silver goes down, you're not losing all that value there. Granted, when the first piece comes out, everyone gets super hyped. Premiums go up even a little bit higher.
Sure.
Wait a little bit. You might be lucky to find a little reduction in price. But then they go away.
Right.
And suddenly 2 or 3 years pass and people are like, whoa, I never knew that was even made. I want that in my stack. I want that in my collection. So it's getting that extra true stability within a collector piece where you have an additional opportunity to retain that value.
Right.
And possibly like 3, 5, 10x what you paid.
Interesting. Now, so I also understand that not only is the collectible silver or very rare collectible silver piece facet of the market doing well, but also the higher end U.S. type coins and the cream of the crop. I mean, from my understanding, auctions are still seeing record prices come to the table.
Great pieces continue to come out from all of these fantastic collections. I mean, there's just too many to break it down. But if you're in that realm of where you can spend millions on coins.
And that's what we're talking about,
there's definitely
folks.
Opportunity.
Some of these coins are going for $250,000, $500,000, $1 million plus.
Multi-million.
It is a truly incredible thing to see. But these are, of course, the rarest specimens known and on record or to have been recorded. So
that is the high end of investment quality numismatics.
And for those, obviously, it's a one of a kind. You're probably never going to be able to find a replacement for it, and it's going to hold a premium from now and into the end times, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if it's based in silver and gold. I think it's always a good idea.
I don't know. I mean, you're getting like a 1/4 ounce of gold for a couple $1,000,000.
All right, valid.
You might be able to look at that another way.
Right. In the law of percentages, I guess it doesn't matter all that much. But what's interesting is just taking a delve and looking at the world coin market in general. Educated myself, learned a little bit about Numindex. So I believe that's NUMINDEX.com, which has a charting of the numismatic world coin market, looking at the premiums within a specific set of 30 coins. So this is brand new to me, had no idea that this was something that was being monitored. But in looking at all of the information that they hold, you're actually able to track the progression of the numismatic through world coins. And it looks to be that we are on a solid uptrend.
Yeah.
We're at more than twice the point of the numismatic market or where it stood.
What did you say it was recently? Like 123% premium?
Yeah, so 123% premium away from its precious metals content. And just so we're aware, that index is actually looking at that space between where the coin sells to where it was for precious metals value. And the difference between them is the premium. And the stronger the premium, the healthier the market. And as that's being pushed throughout the timeline since 2018, I think we've almost doubled the premium against the precious metals price. And of course, precious metals have gone up relatively. So if you can think about that in a factor of multiples, so we're talking about folds, I think that people are doing pretty well for those that were purchasing 2018 and prior to now. And yet still the economic data, the projected market data is forecasting a CAGR of 10.4%. And that growth is still putting us on track for something like $20.8 billion by the year 2031. That sounds great
insane.
To me.
Yeah.
Now, the odd part for me is that we're in an economically contracting point in time. So we are seeing some cash flows dry up, right, that are no longer participating in the market with the same pace. But at the same time, the market is flourishing and expanding on its own right.
Well, I think you're comparing a few aspects there, right? So the Numindex is leveraging data off of world coins. There isn't a single U.S. coin within that evaluation.
Not one listed, no.
Right. So the world market for coins is so much bigger than just the United States. And it's thriving. We actually spoke about that quite a bit back in January, and when we were talking about the World's Fair money and how it is just another beast.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing market with so much rich history and so much opportunity for the average and for the investor that it doesn't even compare.
Yeah.
So we are economically contracting, but I think although the rest of the world is feeling it too, within the U.S. market, we're experiencing things we really hadn't experienced before. The level of inflation and just the basic cost of living, lack of purchasing power, all of these things haven't hit us like this in quite some time.
Yeah.
Right. We've always kind of been the last one, or as they once said, inflation is transitory. So it affects everybody else first, and we really haven't felt it so much. So I do think that, again, goes back to what we said at the beginning of this, is the average person and how they're spending their money is different.
Yes.
Especially compared to the world market.
Yeah, I agree. I do believe that out of our customer base, and obviously this may be because they're already in our customer base, but it seems to be that if people are going to spend on a luxury, they want to spend it on a luxury that they can somehow hold and hope for a return, right? Or also not feel like they're wasting it on something consumable or that will expire.
Disposable.
Right.
Yep.
They feel as though almost they're investing in themselves because they're investing in their own precious metal or numismatic
even
collection.
a lot of them are looking to their grandkids. Right?
Yes.
So they're looking generations down the road to try and find a way to take their hard work or a lifetime of work
Or passion.
and pass that value and effort down to somebody else within the family.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's funny. You know, we've had quite a few people actually with that specific mission coming in.
Yeah. I mean, just the other day, one of our really good customers brings in somebody we've never seen before. And who is it? This is my grandson.
Right.
This is who I'm doing this for. And it was awesome to see it.
It was. And we always appreciate that when our customers will bring down that next generation and introduce them to the coins. The younger numismatic collectors get treated like gold here. So
Absolutely.
if you ever are in town and you decide to stop by the shop, make sure you bring your youngin'. We'll let them know all about coins. Maybe they'll even walk out with a handful of something.
Most likely.
So overall, I think that, we look really strong. And in the current economic situation, the collectible coin market for rare coins specifically in the U.S. is extremely healthy.
Very much.
We're on an upward momentum. Awareness is continuing to grow. Avenues to participate and be a numismatic collector are continuing to grow. And the world coin market is healthy at the same pace. So we'll have to see.
I'd say the world market's outpacing.
Yes. So the world market is outpacing.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, with all that being said, I think that, we can only hope that this is going to continue on an upward trend pending any geopolitical catastrophes.
Pair that with the roller coaster of the bullion market, and it's fantastic.
Now, there is always that fear, right? That there was an article that I may have read. I think it may have been through Numismatic News, but they had suggested that the possibility of cryptocurrency could negatively impact the numismatic market, which I found to be very strange in my mind. If anything, I found that it would enhance it. That was my
old school thought versus new school thought.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
So I have a feeling you're going down the route of tokenizing your assets, leveraging them in
my
other
mind,
ways.
that's where it goes. But I think that the apprehension is a restriction in transactions if there were to be a mandated use of CBDC, and privacy is no longer going to be able to be honored in those transactions the way that customers are used to it.
I mean, I hate to say it this way. I think the average person's already given up their privacy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even in numismatics, right? You see people that are building their collections on PCGS and trying to do registry sets and compete, and like how my collections started their new program. And I definitely see a lot more transparency than I've seen in a long time.
I like the transparency. The transparency for me is good. It keeps the market honest and it keeps everything moving. What better of a marketplace to participate in, right? When it's all transparent.
The other thing to consider too with that is if we are leveraging blockchain data or tokenizing, and let's just say I do have that multi-million-dollar coin.
Sure.
Or actually, let's say I have an $1,800 Carson City Morgan, right? Well, what if it stops all of these counterfeits coming in from China?
Well, exactly.
Right? Is there a way to prevent additional counterfeiting? Because you see the same serial numbers, all manipulating the same coin coming through.
Yep.
I mean, we had one guy walk in with 10 of the exact same, right? Because he bought them off Facebook Special. But by leveraging that data tracking, the transparency of where it is, who has it.
In that idea that you just presented, you could take that coin and you could go to the source transaction and you would see the unique identifier that's labeled on that coin, and it would tie the entire transactional history. Now, some people don't like that part that happens, but the end user is going to appreciate the fact that they were able to validate and source and provide provenance to the piece that they own. Right. And it will cut back on those frauds because you can't do that with a fraudulent one. It's not going to have the same.
A lot more difficult.
The encrypted data will not match the end result of what you have.
Absolutely.
So who knows what is to come for us? I mean, this is obviously years to roll out.
Yeah.
My outlook is optimistic, and we're going to continue to go into a growth pattern. I'm hoping that whatever's going on in the country for economics is going to shift, and we're going to see liquidity pump back into the people's hands. That's the hope within the next year or so.
Right.
And it will only exacerbate the growth of the different asset classes from stocks and bonds, things like numismatics, gold and silver.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that's it for another episode from the Numisphere. I hope you like our update. Be sure to chime in with any comments, concerns, things you want to add to the conversation. We're always looking for them and be happy to reply. Hope you guys have a great night.
See you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Numisphere podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next episode. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Numisphere. Until next time.